Hey guys, JT Con here, heading back to the planet of Kerbin for Kerbal Space Program. We got Kerbin in the distance there. A couple things I wanted to point out from last week. There is a new demo out at KerbalSpaceProgram.com. This is version 0.18.4. They have a demo up for version 0.18.2. So really, it's almost the newest version. So you can get in the game, you can check it out. There's a limit on some of the things you can do. The save games, I think it doesn't work with plugins. I'm not entirely sure on the limitations, but you can definitely get in there and mess around with it. And you should seriously consider picking it up afterwards. So this time it's going to be significantly shorter, I think. I just want to focus on a couple of things. We'll check out the tracking station a little bit more. We've already got a flight in progress, so we'll see how that's doing. And we're going to build another satellite, a ComSat, to focus on something I really skipped over last week because I was petrified of it, and that's the action groups. I've done a little bit of reading. I've seen it in action, so we can check it out, and then we can work on getting our network of comm satellites up, so we can get our first Kerbal up into space, and we can communicate and track him up in space. So let's do that now. Let's go into let's get to our space center. And here we go. Pretty much the same as when we left it. We'll go in the tracking center here. And there it is. There's our home planet. There is our flight. I just wanted to point out that as long as you don't end flights, end them, you just basically go back to the Space Center or exit the game. Those flights will keep going, so you can have multiple things going on. To see them, you just click right up here. We've got Probe Test 1A up there, so we're going to click on that. And that shows our orbit. It shows our periapsis at 198 kilometers, our apoapsis at 217K, so we can kind of see what's going on there. We can also click this fly button. It will take us down to that orbit, and there's our probe. Still hanging out, really not doing much of anything, really. But, it's there. That's cool. If I were to pick end flight, it would remove this completely from our game. And so I'm not going to do that. I'm going to leave it up there for a while just for old time's sake. But we're going to go back into the Space Center, back into our tracking. I just wanted to point out that you can actually focus on other bodies while in here. There's the moon. You can kind of spin around it. You can kind of check its orbit out. If we wanted to go out, go to Minmus. Excuse me. We can check out Minmus. Or, if you hit the tab button, you can just scroll through planets. There's Moho. There's Eve. Go in and see that. But, I don't really want to check all those out right now because I would rather that we discover that. I haven't really studied these very much. And I know there's at least one mod out there that adds kind of a telescope so that we can check stuff out. So really, except for seeing the solar system like that, I don't really want to get in and see a whole lot. So we're going to go back, but if you want to, you can do that. So let's get started building our ComSat. It's pretty much going to be... There's that music again. It's hard for me to concentrate with that. It's going to be very similar to the one we did last time, except we're going to use this octagonal probe right here. We're going to move that guy up. Right about there. It is still an unmanned probe, but we're going to add some cool stuff to it. I'm going to add this antenna to the top. I'm going to put that guy right about there. And we're going to add a couple of batteries. There's that symmetry mode. We're going to put it in... so we can add two on opposite sides. There we go. In our utility tab, I am going to put some solar panels also two of them on opposite sides of each other. Right about there. That's the basic probe right there. What we're going to do is we're going to add some science instruments that by themselves don't do a whole lot for us. There are a couple of mods out there that allow you to track the readings in separate windows. Mainly in, I want to say, web browsers. There's also a mod that opens a window in game that allows you to do that, but I don't have that right now, so we're just going to add these on there. So we're going to put the accelerator on right there. Actually, we need to remember to take this out of symmetry mode, put it back in single, otherwise it's going to add two of them. So we're going to put that guy there. We're going to put the gravity detector right there. Let's put the barometer right here. And we're going to put the thermometer right there. So in theory, what this should do is, and this will serve as our communication dish that really doesn't do much right now, it just looks cool. So basically, in theory, what this should do is, when we launch this rocket, we will turn on these instruments, and theoretically what should happen is mission control should get the readings as far as G-forces, barometric pressure, temperature, the amount of gravity, so they can kind of, we can learn more about how Kerbal works as far as its physical and scientific properties. So that is basically our probe right there. What I'm going to do is I'm going to show you real quick the action groups, which is something I didn't really want to get into last time. I saw this in action in another mod that I was playing earlier in the week, and basically it was a Soyuz mod, and the launch escape system, all of the parts were individually listed in the action group, so you just hit buttons if you had to abort a flight and use the launch escape system. So seeing that kind of helped me understand a lot better how these things work. So what I'm going to do is, really the purpose of the action groups is to set up parts that maybe need to be, that are animated, or you can set up multiple parts to do something at once. For instance, once we're in orbit, I could go and right-click each of these solar panels and right-click our antenna and separately tell them to unfurl and deploy. But instead, what we can do is add everything into an action group. We can hit one button and it will do it all at once. Likewise, we're going to set up one action group that turns all of these instruments on at once. Instead, if we didn't do that and it was on the pad, we would have to turn these on and off individually. But we're going to make that a little easier. So right up here is our action group button. Here's our list. They already have some set up that you can use for as far as gears, lights, your RCS, your SAS, your brakes, etc. We're going to use the custom ones. So custom 1 correlates to the one button on our keyboard above the letter keys, not the keypad. And so what we're going to do is we're going to click each one of these instruments, and it's going to show up in your selection. It's going to show your selection and what it can do. And this part can toggle the sensor on and off. So we're going to click toggle sensor. We're going to do that for each one. And that way, while we're on the pad, we can just hit the one button and it will turn them all on. Makes it a little easier. Our custom 2, which would be our 2 key, what we're going to do is we're going to link our solar panels. We can toggle them, we can extend them or retract them with this button. I'm just going to go ahead and choose toggle. And so when we hit 2, it's going to deploy those panels. And I'm also going to add the communication antenna to that as well. So once we hit the button 2, when we're in orbit, it will just take care of all that for us. And that's the basis of the action groups. There's a lot more complicated stuff or creative stuff you could do if you want. I know I saw one mod where they had the staging set up to where you could hit a button and the boosters would shut down and then turn around and decouple and fall away. So you can set up different parts that way. You can have different parts deploy or separate based on those buttons instead of you going through the normal staging. So there's a lot of uses for that. So let's real quick set up the rest of this rocket, and it's basically going to be the same design as what we used last time. So we know we can get up into orbit with that with probes, so let's just stick with that. We'll get creative next time. Sort of. Let's get our advanced SAS, our stabilizing system, in there. We're going to put an RCS fuel tank, some monopropellant, so we can get these thrusters in there. We're going to add 4 of those in symmetry mode, just like last time. There we go. And get our fuel tank, our engine, oopsie. There we go. And that's going to be our orbital insertion stage. And now we're going to do our first stage. And at the bottom of that, the mainsail liquid engine, that big beast right there. And a couple of things that I didn't point out last time either is we've got 3 buttons down here. The reason I didn't mention them is I don't know a lot about them, so that's something else I'm going to have to learn about. But that's what this is about, right? Right now we've got our center of mass, and when I use this, when I use the center of mass is when I'm usually putting my launch stability enhancers on, these little towers. I'll put them usually at the center of mass because that seems, at least for me, and it really could be coincidence, but it helps from the rocket wobbling on the pad. So that's our center of mass. We also have our center of lift, which is odd that it's down there, but you know what? If you know more about this, let me know in the comments. Be happy to hear about it. And our center of thrust. And typically speaking, I believe you really want those to balance out well, and that's going to determine how well your rocket is balancing in flight. So I believe that's going to be about it. Let's check our staging. Remember, we want the our main engine and the stability enhancers to be in the same stage. There's the decoupler for the second stage engine, and then the decoupler for that. So I believe we are looking pretty good. So let's go up here. Let's name this ComSat 1A, because it sounds official and boring. So we're going to save this so we can come back to it later if we need to. And let's head to the launch pad. All right, simulation is settling in there. There's our rocket on the pad. Looking good. So now what I'm going to do is can't really get in there to see with this camera like this, but you can see these instruments. If I right click it, it says value null, which means it's not on. I toggle it, it shows the gravity. Now, if I hit my 1 key, because that's what we set it up with, you can see it does that also for us. The major advantage is I've turned all of these instruments on now. So mission control is getting their readings. They've got their baseline readings. So let's do this. We're going to switch our SAS on and bring our throttle up to about, I don't know, 90% or so, because this thing's going to heat up pretty quick, this monster of an engine. And just like last time, we're going to start our gravity turn between 9 and 10 kilometers. And we're going to shoot for, I'm going to say, let's say 400 kilometer orbit. And we'll go from there. All right, let's do this. We're going to launch in 3, 2, 1, launch. And we're up and away. Still a little wobbly, which is all right. There's nobody on there to get sick and throw up at this point. Our overheat down here in the corner is heading up, so we're going to decrease our throttle. We also want to watch our G-force here in the right hand of our navigation ball. We want to try to keep that, especially if there's Kerbals on board. We want to keep that into the green as much as possible to help with their already stressful lives. So we're at 6K. We're going to get ready to do that gravity turn now. in just a couple of seconds. And SAS is off, and we're going to start tipping over. I'm going to tip us over slowly to about 45 degrees or so, or a little bit less, 40 degrees. I'm going to hit that, the SAS back on for stability. Our M key takes us out to our map. You see we're gaining that altitude pretty quick, so I am also going to tip us over just a tad more. If that's a tad, it's ridiculous. Liquid engines out. I'm going to hit my space bar, which I didn't mention last time, to separate that stage. Wow, we are out of control. RCS thrusters are on to try to recover. Try to get us lined back up, maybe. There we go, SAS. Come on. Losing some time here. All right, hit the spacebar again to kick that engine in. And there we go. We're going to watch this. Remember, we're going to cut off at 400 kilometers, which is going to be the high point of our orbit. There's the 200 mark, 300, and we're going to kill it there. And something I did not think about is the amount of fuel we have in that second stage. We're a little less than a half tank. We're going significantly higher, so looks like it's going to work. But when you're working at higher orbits, your fuel is definitely the first thing you need to think of. So 412 kilometers is going to be our apoapsis. Just like last time, we're going to use the maneuver node system to set up our circularization burn. We're going to add a maneuver. We're going to use our prograde symbol here. We're going to drag that out so our hypothetical orbit goes out. And adjust that a bit. That's not bad. That's not bad at all. So once we reach our apoapsis here, we are going to burn, or I'm sorry, we're going to burn here, and it's going to raise our orbit on the opposite side of the planet. So that maneuver is set up. I'm going to bring up our nav ball here. It says it's going to be a 6-second burn, and that's going to happen in 11 minutes. So we're going to need 361 meters per second of speed to do that. Just like last time, our prograde symbol is right here on our nav ball. And we're going to pre-set up our attitude for that burn. Blue symbol is our attitude where we're going to be pointing. We're going to lock that in there. And even though it shows right now that we're pointing towards the planet, our position is pretty much going to stay the same since we're up in the atmosphere, or out of the atmosphere. So as we follow the curve of the planet, by the time we hit our burn mark, we will be facing forward. So looking good there. So I'm going to speed this up a bit, and then we'll do the burn. All right, guys, we are just above 30 seconds for this burn. I'm going to check our resources here because we do not have our satellite or our solar panels out. So we are using up energy from the batteries, but we're okay. We'll be fine. That's why we put two batteries on the probe. So we're getting ready for this burn. We're going to burn at 7 seconds because it takes a second for the engine to spool up. There we go. We're going to check our orbit out. And we've got cutoff. This says we need 4.4 meters a second still. I think that looks pretty good. This is not rocket science. Yes, it is, but it isn't. So now we've got a stable orbit. Our lowest point is going to be 411 kilometers. Our highest point is 416 kilometers. So not perfect, but what are you gonna do? So we're gonna go ahead. We're gonna speed up a bit because I like to do this on the lit side of the planet. There we go. And I'll bring us around so we're facing prograde again after I turn off our SAS. And we're going to face prograde because, I like to. And we're going to hit spacebar again to separate the orbital insertion stage there. There we go. The probe is now by itself. And I'm just going to spin it around a little bit. It seriously does not matter. Whoa. All right, there we go. Now I'm going to hit the 2 key because that's where we set our action group up. And it's going to open up our antenna and deploy the solar panels. So let's do that. And there we go. Just like it's supposed to. Nice. These solar panels will track the sun. So as we go around, you'll see these moving to track it. There's a little bit of a mesh collision because this is so large, so these panels will actually stick through, but that's all right. I don't mind. So I'm going to actually point us down just for the heck of it. So we're pointing towards the planet. And then you'll see, now that we've moved, the panels are tracking. You can see where it's cutting off a little bit. That's okay. We still have these instruments running. If we want to, we can hit A to shut them off. Or I'm sorry, 1 to shut them off. But you know what? We'll run them. So there we go. We are in orbit. And I'm actually going to launch 4 of these spaced a little ways apart. So we can kind of have a communication network set up for when we start launching Kerbals into space. I will not make you sit through that because I can only imagine that you would fall asleep at that point. So I'm going to do that during the break. And when we come back, the next episode, those will be there, and we'll launch a Kerbal into space. We will strap him onto a rocket, fling him into the void, and hope he comes back in one piece. We'll put together that single-seat capsule. We'll send him up into orbit. He'll do an EVA, kind of float around a little bit. We'll do a deorbit burn, and we'll land, hopefully, if everything goes okay. Thanks, guys, for watching. Hopefully you learned a little bit. If not, I'm at least glad that you sat here with me through my ridiculousness. And I will see you next time. Be well, and thanks for watching. Bye-bye.